Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. Joining us on the phones right now, we welcome back to the show National Press Secretary for the RNC, Blair Ellis. Blair, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, y'all, for having me back on.
Absolutely. Always good to have you on the program. I want to start off, before we get into some of the headlines and some of the news out there, the political news, when we see the news about the RNC bringing in, all this money and the RNC doing financially well and getting ready for the upcoming campaign for 2020, what does that mean, for the average folks out there who want to know what y'all do to help get candidates elected and when, looking at President Trump's reelection campaign, how all does the RNC get involved?
So the RNC's job is to provide candidates, Republican candidates up and down the ballot, not just President Trump, but candidates in every state that are state, local, elected officials. We want to give them the best infrastructure possible. We want to give them access to the best data so they know who they need to be talking to, and we want to give them access to the best people, the best teams, and the best resources. And so that is a lot of what we spend our off years preparing for. We build up our data. We are constantly reinvesting money into growing our data program, growing our field infrastructure, and that's a lot of what we're doing right now heading into 2020. We've got teams on the ground already in several of these key states. We have our political teams and our comms teams on the ground, and we're getting ready to really just hit the ground running. We're doing a lot to grow upon and rebuild our infrastructure back from 2016. And again, that's going to be a major key to our success in 2020, is just having people, having teams in the right places, and making sure that we're talking to the right folks.
Compare the RNC's operation right now, money on hand, the data operation that you guys have. Compare that to what the Democrats have. How does it compare?
So it's there's a pretty stark difference between the two, to put it quite simply. At this point, the Trump campaign and the RNC have really exceeded and kind of crushed first quarter fundraising goals. We have over $70 million in the bank combined, and each of us have around 30 to 40 million cash on hand, and that's critical because that is really, it shows the strong support, the enthusiasm, the excitement for the president. It shows the continued enthusiasm for what these Republican members of Congress are doing to enact and help push President Trump's agenda along. The DNC, meanwhile, is in debt. They have about 6, 7, 8 million in debt, and they continue to lag behind us in our fundraising every month. I think we more than doubled their fundraising in the month of April. So the Democrats have a real problem on their hands. They can't raise money, they can't recruit candidates, and they're certainly going to have a hard time running against President Trump's results.
What do you think, and I guess it depends on, who the Democrat nominee is going to be. Obviously, there's a big focus on Texas. What are some of the other states that are going to be, as of right now, you think that main focus for the RNC?
So, and it shakes up every year, and it's gonna differ too throughout the year, especially as we start to kind of see the Democrat field narrow, and we start to get a feel for who the Democrat nominee is going to be. But the path to getting those critical electoral votes is pretty common among the states you need to be in. But we feel confident that we can really flip some dim states, that we can flip some states and make a difference in areas that people might have written off. We're going to always keep looking at Nevada. We're going to continue to look at New Mexico. We're, of course, going to keep an eye on Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. All of those states are critical. They played critical roles to President Trump. Florida is another one. Texas, of course. All of those played critical roles for President Trump back in 2016, and those are states that we've absolutely got an eye on, and we're going to look to have teams in as we head into 2020. Visiting
with Blair Ellis, a National Press Secretary with the RNC. There was a poll, Blair, that came out, I think it was last week. I talked about it yesterday on the show, where 57% of Americans said that socialism is incompatible with American values, basically, that with the founding of the country. I think that number's way too low, by the way. That the 57%, that should mean like 80, 85, 90%
totally.
Of people. But obviously, that it's good news, I would think, right, for the Republicans as the Democrat Party continues to shift to the left. This has got to be welcome news for you guys.
It absolutely is, and I think it needs to serve as a pretty big wake-up call to Democrats right now, and that two-thirds of Americans don't like the concept of socialism and find it to be standing in stark contrast to that of what we believe in here in America, I think needs to be a bit of a wake-up call for Dems. They need to start recognizing that maybe government-funded everything and government-run everything isn't the answer. And until they wake up, they're probably going to be left with some lower polling and some disappointing results come Election Day of 2020.
Okay, and that's what I want to ask you about, is the government-funded everything. In that poll, only 37%, and I think it was a Gallup poll, 37% associated universal or Medicare for all, government-run health care with socialism, 37%. So, and as the RNC, how do you, there's education that goes into that, right? Where you've got to reach out to voters and say, no, nothing is free, and this is a socialist tenant. How do you educate people on that between now and 2020?
It's a big focus of ours because I think there is a disconnect to some extent between, what Democrats are trying to paint socialism as, which is they're trying to portray it as this rosy picture. And our job here is to explain, no, let's look at the history books. Let's look at examples of other countries and what socialism has done to their economy, how it's wreaked havoc on the lives of the innocent people that live within that country. And so that's a lot of what we have to do, is we have to explain when someone says Medicare for all, here's what it actually means. It means lower quality healthcare. It means a more difficult time finding your doctor. It means a chance you're going to lose your healthcare. If Democrats get their way, people are going to be booted off their private insurance. And so I think when you start breaking down what Medicare for all actually translates to, Americans overwhelmingly are going to start agreeing that, hey, this isn't the right answer for us. This is not the direction that we want to be going in. And so that's a large part of what we're doing right now, is really trying to explain what it is that Medicare means, because Medicare for all is not the rosy picture that Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and Mr. Biden would want you to believe.
Before I let you go, the average American, the average person out there who may or may not be paying attention to politics right now, which I think is probably quite a few. Do you think when they hear still the Democrats talk about the Mueller report and wanting to hold the Attorney General in contempt today and all, do you think they're just sick and tired of this and they're ready for the nation and for the Democrats to move on?
Totally. And there was even a CNN poll a couple of weeks back that CNN polled a bunch of Americans, and one of the questions was, what's at the top of your mind and what's at the forefront of your thoughts right now? And not a single person they polled responded back with the Mueller report or Russia. It was all about the economy. It was about jobs. It was about the market. It was about immigration. It was about healthcare. It's about things that this president and this Congress are trying to lead on, but have been kind of stalwarted every step of the way because Democrats certainly are not willing to extend a hand to this president or any other Republican member of Congress. But it's in the proof is in the pudding. People know that this talk about the Mueller report doesn't matter, and that's not something that the American people are concerned about. And so Democrats are going to need to wake up to that too, because at this point they have yet to accept reality for what it is, and that's a shame for them.
I don't know. I kind of hope they focus on this. Blair, I got to be honest, I want them to focus on this. I want them to focus on who was the Pennsylvania state rep who was yelling at three like high school girls who were praying outside Planned Parenthood. I want them to focus on that. I want them to focus on gun control, because I got to be honest, I think if they focus on that type of stuff, it's going to be pretty red across America come Election Day 2020.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, we know that the economy is what's going to drive people to the polls, and all you have to do is take a look at the fact that unemployment has dropped significantly across every major demographic. All you have to do is look at the fact that jobs are 5.4 million since Trump has come to office. When you start looking at the numbers and the facts and the figures, they speak for themselves. And so if Democrats want to spin themselves silly talking about issues that don't matter to the American people, we'll keep on trucking along and pushing our record of success. National
Press Secretary for the RNC, Blair Ellis, is always a pleasure visiting with you, and we will talk with you down the road.
Thanks so much, Chad.
Have a good one. That's Blair Ellis, National Press Secretary for the RNC. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.